football is more than just a game. Over the last 150 years it has become a source of identity, conflict and debate for all who follow and play it. It has reached the furthest corners of the globe and boasts more players and supporters than any other sport. In this list, we will be going right the way through the illustrious, colorful and often tragic history of football and finding out once and for all what the most important moments are in this truly beautiful Sheffield FC and the question of rules, 1857. The first moment in our list is the creation of football's oldest club, Sheffield FC. The players who set up the club were old boys from the Sheffield Collegiate School after being introduced to the game by their college masters. These students included Nathaniel Creswick and William Prest, the co-founders and instigators of the Sheffield Rules. It is the Sheffield Rules which distinguished this form of football to that set up 6 years later. The list of 11 laws are at times similar and as others far removed from the game we watch today. In fact, when reading the rules it is almost reminiscent of rugby. It involved catching and passing the ball with the hands. However, the inclusion of only scoring via the foot and the removal of hacking lends itself to a sport more at home with the Football Association's later vision. Rules created the greatest debate amongst players in sports infancy. In 1848 the Cambridge rules were drawn up by members of the university in order to clear up any confusion. However, Sheffield FC's importance is more widely recognized. The influence of Sheffield FC in the creation of the modern game cannot be understated. Indeed, Sheffield managed to create a genuine football culture in the wider local area and show how football could provide an identity to more than just the players on the pitch. The formation of the Football Association, 1863, of course, we couldn't make a list of the most important moments in football history without explaining how the world's most popular sport was created in the first place. When we saw created, it would perhaps be wiser to say codified. By 1863, football had become the sport of public school boys and university students around the country. For those playing, however, the inconsistency in rules played at different institutions meant something had to be done. On the 26th of October 1863, the Football Association was born. 11 clubs and schools met at the Freemasons Tavern, London to discuss which rules would stay and which would go. Following the acceptance of the codes of the game, the first match played under those rules took place in December that year between Barnes and Richmond. The final score ... 0-0. Typical. The rules would continue to split and divide some of the original teams, leading to the establishment of a rugby football union 8 years later. The Football Association has since gone on to become one of the most celebrated institutions in British history, and its influence is still seen today as the game it created is played in all corners of the world. The first FA Cup, 1871-2, the FA Cup is huge. Modern-day football fans are probably unaware of its importance as more and more tournaments are introduced to us through TV and social media. In 1871, football was still very much in its infancy, an amateur sport played by gentlemen and public school alumni. In its relatively short life it had already grown to include numerous teams and spectators. Prior to the FA Cup, the Youth Cup played under Sheffield rules can claim the title of the oldest tournament in football. Following the success of the Youth Cup, Secretary of the FA Charles O'Conk launched his own competition. With no official league, a cup was the only way in which it could be decided who the best team in the association game was. With the Rugby Football Union forming around the same time, perhaps a tournament on the scale of the FA Cup was needed to promote the game. Taylor is quick to argue that we should not overestimate the initial success of the FA Cup. Indeed, only 15 clubs entered the competition. It would take 10 years for the FA Cup to truly represent the whole nation, but once it did, it would continue to grow to this day. Now, we see over 700 entrants each season from the Premier League to the lowest levels on the football pyramid. Through the FA Cup, football had begun to become the national sport, seriously rivaling cricket. Without it, it is hard to see the subsequent development of the Football League and the general spread of the beautiful game to all corners of the globe. FIFA founded, 1904, on May 21, 1904, the Fédération Internationale de Football Association, FIFA, was founded in Paris. Love them or loathe them today, FIFA have been integral to the growth and globalization of the beautiful game. FIFA's founding was a way of formalizing the work begun by the Football Association back in 1863. This was then followed by the first ever international football match, held at Hamilton Crescent, Glasgow, between Scotland and England in 1872. With the need for a football governing body clear by 1904, the home nations of England, Scotland, Ireland and Wales rejected the idea. However, despite these disappointing rejections, many national associations did agree to unite together. In total 7 countries founded FIFA on that day in May 1904, France, Netherlands, Belgium, Spain, Sweden, Denmark and Switzerland were at the meeting, whilst Germany also joined from afar by telegram. Robert Guérin, a French journalist for Le Matin newspaper, was elected the first president of FIFA. FIFA's first president, Robert Guérin. It was decided by September 1905, after England had finally joined, that matches were to be played according to the laws of the game of the Football Association Limited. Each national association would also pay an annual membership fee of 50 French francs. Significantly, only FIFA could organize official international matches, and so their influence began to grow. By the beginning of the First World War in 1914, many more had joined the fray, with South Africa, Canada, USA, Argentina and Chile making FIFA truly global. It would not be till the first televised football match that the 1937 would take place. Result for Arsenal versus Arsenal reserves 1937. Today, football and television go hand in hand. It is a relationship which causes controversy and debate, but in 1937 the first televised match would truly change the game forever. At Arsenal's Highbury Stadium, it was of course broadcast by the BBC. Founded in 1926 as a radio service, the advances in motion, picture and talkies in Hollywood meant television was the next step for the public broadcaster. Football, as we have seen, already had a huge following. Spectator figures continued to rise and fan bases began to stretch wider than just local supporters. The first match to be televised was between Arsenal and Arsenal reserves. It had been specially arranged for the occasion. Unfortunately for anyone watching, bad light affected the coverage as rain and dark clouds loomed overhead. Despite a lack of newspaper coverage, the match's importance is undoubted. Historian Richard Haynes notes how the experiment helped to enthuse the curiosity of many. The following year saw more coverage of football matches, and the rest they say ... is history. For many, this will be one of the most relevant moments in our top 50 list. Today, it is common to see the news dominated by football and television rights. It is possible now to watch football all day if we want it on a multitude of channels as the commercialization of the game continues. What needs reminding though is in 1937 the beauty of the game was truly captured and taken to the hearts of those who watched it. Let's hope that feeling returns. In the 1986 World Cup quarter-final match between Argentina and England, Argentine footballer Diego Maradona scored 2 goals to lift Argentina to a 2-1 win over England. The first goal he scored, known as the Hand of God goal, was dubbed by the German press agency DPA as the scandal of the century. 6 minutes into the second half of the game, Maradona passed the ball to Jorge Voltano and continued his run from the left-hand side of the field. Steve Hodge intercepted the pass, and in an attempt to clear the ball, he accidentally moved it in Maradona's direction. Maradona hit the ball with his left fist, volleying it into the net past goalkeeper Peter Shilton. At the post-game press conference, Maradona remarked that he scored his first goal un poco con la cabeza de Maradona y otro. Poco con la mano de Dios, a little with the head of Maradona and a little with the hand of God. Soon after the game in Mexico City, Tunisian referee Ali bin Nasser claimed that he had a hemorrhoid treatment that affected his eyesight and consequently, caused him to overlook Maradona's misstep and allow the Argentines' infamous goal to count. The hand of God goal is memorable not only because it ignited a long-standing controversy and crushed England's World Cup dreams, but also because it signifies the entanglement of football and politics in the 1986 quarter-final matchup between Argentina and England. On game day, England's victory over Argentina in the Falklands War in 1982 was far from a distant memory. It was an opportunity for Argentina to exact revenge on England for winning the conflict, which cost Argentina control of 2 overseas territories in the South Atlantic that it invaded, occupied, and laid claim to. The following quote from Maradona captures the idea that Argentina's win was revenge for its defeat in the Falklands War. He said, "It was as if we had beaten a country, not just a football team." Although we had said before the game that football had nothing to do with the Malvinas War, we knew they had killed a lot of Argentine boys there, killed them like little birds. And this was revenge. To Roberto Perfumo, a former Argentine footballer, the 1986 World Cup quarterfinals was a political contest in which soccer took a backseat. He remarked, "In 1986, winning that game against England was enough. Winning the World Cup was secondary for us. Beating England was our real aim." 6. Maradona's hand of God goal will likely always be marred by controversy, but the entwinement of football and politics on soccer's biggest stage is harder to call into question. The World Cup arrives in Africa, 2010. Football, as we have seen, has had the power to bring people together from all around the world. The game quickly became incredibly popular in Europe and South America, before spreading to the other continents of the world. The modern history of Africa, however, has been full of exploitation, dictatorial governments and poverty. When South Africa won the right to host the biggest competition on earth, it was sure to raise a few eyebrows. For most, it was the culmination of 20 years of growth in African football. As FIFA continuously expanded and the World Cup grew to cater for more sides, African sides, for the first time, were given a platform on the biggest stage of all. Despite Egypt's appearance at the 1934 tournament, the former colonization of the African continent meant it would be another team qualified. This time Morocco. Subsequent performances from nations like Zaire failed to make much of an impact, until the 1990 World Cup. Cameroon's run to the quarter-final that year earned the respect and praise of people all around the world. For the first time, Africa was being noticed. The star of the show was Roger Milla. At 36, he had scored 3 goals to help his nation progress. In 1994 and 1998, the progression of African sides continued with the Super Eagles of Nigeria impressing many in the latter. By now the tournament was catering for 32 teams, of which 5 would be from Africa. In the opening game of the 2002 World Cup, relative unknowns Senegal beat holders France 1-0. Overnight, Senegalese heroes Diouf, Diallo and Diop were household names. Iniesta wins the World Cup for Spain. The time was right then for an African nation to host the competition. FIFA had put vast amounts of money and resources into the continent in the years leading up to it, and now was the chance to showcase it to the globe. The stadiums, fans and locations helped create the marvelous atmosphere. A true carnival of football was about to begin. As we have already stated in moment 44, Spain would go on to win the cup after a final which featured 14 yellow cards and 1 red. In hindsight, the 2010 World Cup will not to be remembered for the football. In fact, the overall quality was actually rather poor, but it will be for what it meant to an entire continent. It showed that football truly is a universal game for everyone. It showed that it has the power to inspire people, no matter what their social-economic situation dictates. Football truly is the world's language. That's all for now. Stay tuned to get more exciting videos on entertainment, lifestyle and more.